It's been a great day. I want to give another round of applause to our organizers, Savannah Barker, some of the great champions and leaders in our community, from Ruben Cantu to Mateo and Vicky Odell, and a lot of the great speakers. How do we define social impact, right? The world is changing. There's so many problems going on in the world. Global warming, food scarcity, poverty. How do we address these problems, right? And it's not about me, it's not about us, it's about you and how you approach that. So for the next 40 seconds, I would love for you to meet someone right next to you, introduce to yourself, and tell them how you define social entrepreneurship and social impact. Does that make sense? All right, please.
Sitting on the thing. Yeah, turn it on. Yeah, turn this on.
Maybe they'll turn. Oh, you know what? There's some on. Yeah. This is odd.
Test.
No, I think they're going to turn them on. Yeah.
Are you guys? So it's on. Do you like turn on?
Okay, guys, wrap up about 10 seconds, and we're going to focus and introduce our panelists.
Test.
Hello?
Oftentimes we think that the answers are in a book
I don't know.
or some major speaker
Hello? Oh, yeah.
at TED Talk, but we fail to realize that it's in our own communities. It's in our community in Austin. It's our community in this room. Can everybody hear me? Awesome. I know we want to talk, and one of the best ways to get your point across is audience engagement. And I think that we are very passionate about subject matter. So I have the great privilege and honor to introduce our speakers who are going to continue with this conversation that we have today. Can you guys hear me in the back? Because we can hear you in the front, right? So please join me in a round of applause as we introduce Zaire Garcia. She's with Ford.us. And we have Mr. Nolan Melson. He's a consultant with Capgemini and the Merivis Foundation. Awesome. So we're talking about and we're trying to define what social impact is. So why social impact, and how does it show up in your work?
I think, to me, what social impact means, it's when you identify a problem, either because you've lived it, experienced it, or because you witnessed it, and you decide that you're going to be the person to do something about it. And that can show up in many ways. It could be because you research something, an organization that's already doing something about it, and you get plugged in, or you decide to be the person who's going to create that organization, which is where the social entrepreneurship part comes in. I work for Forward.us. If you're not familiar with who Forward is, it's a nonprofit advocacy group created by tech giants such as Mark Zuckerberg, Reid Hoffman, to advocate for policies that keep the American dream achievable in the 21st century. The two issues that we work on to do that are immigration reform and criminal justice reform. And a lot of folks think, oh, the tech community became involved in this issue of immigration, which is the first issue that Forward took on, because of the idea of labor and the economy, but really it was our stories is actually somewhat unique. It has to do with somebody who experienced or witnessed a problem. Mark Zuckerberg was giving a talk to a group of low-income students at a high school in California. And he was giving them this motivational speech of, you can do whatever you want, you can be whoever you want to be, if you're just willing to work for it. And one of the students at the end of the panel raised his hand and said, I love what you're saying, and thank you, but that's actually not true. I'm undocumented, and my parents aren't documented. And it doesn't matter how hard we work, there are literal structures in place that will not let us move forward. For example, I'm top of my class, accepted into all of these schools, but I can't actually go to any of them. And because of the funding that has to do when you're an undocumented student. But if I do go, somehow figure out how to pay for it, I can't work in whatever I major in because I don't have a Social Security. And this struck Mark Zuckerberg as extremely un-American. He identified this problem that was affecting society. And what is at the core of society? It's people, it's communities. And decided to do something about it, and then started talking to all of these other tech giants, and that's how Forward got started. So to me, that's what it means to have social impact. That's what it means to be a social entrepreneur. When you decide you're going to do something about a problem that's plaguing society.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, and so for me, my background really focuses a lot on the veteran community. I'm a military veteran myself, and so I co-lead our Veterans Employee Resource Group at Capgemini, which is a global IT consulting firm, and then I'm also a board member with Merivis Foundation. So what social impact means to me and a lot of the work that I do is specifically improving the lives of our veterans every single day. As many of you all know, still about 20 veterans commit suicide a day. And many veterans are still either unemployed or underemployed, end up being in dead-end jobs, very unfulfilled. And it's just a very difficult rat race. So what we try to do and what social impact really means to me is when I show up to work, what can I do to impact the life of that individual veteran so that they can provide for their families and so that they're not in this horrible state of confusion and just very difficult transition from the military to the civilian world, because it is a very difficult transition. It was difficult for me, and I was an officer, and I had a degree, and imagine if you're a veteran with no degree trying to transition and find a career. So with the work that I do, I like to specifically target the underrepresented minority community within the veteran community and ensure that we are making sure that specifically Latinx veterans and African American veterans, Native American veterans, veterans who might be immigrants as well, that their needs are being addressed and that they're able to find that rewarding career. So again, what it really means to me, social entrepreneurship and social impact, is ensuring that I am improving upon the life of that individual veteran.
Awesome. What Nolan didn't tell you is that he's a West Point graduate and an officer, so thank you for your service. I don't know if I said my name. My name is Michael Henderson, and I build community, and it's at the intersectionality of public policy, international affairs, government, and most recently, innovation. Traveling around the world from the border of Mexico, Mission and McAllen, hosting a civic technology summit with my good friend Beto, Altamirano, who's sick, who can't join us today, to most recently helping inspire an entire nation in the country of Chad to transition mentally from looking for jobs and opportunities to creating jobs and opportunities. So really this understanding of how we can use technology and innovation to move our world and society forward. So I would love to hear how we can leverage technology to maximize social impact.
I'll start. At Forward, one of the things that I'm most proud of about our organization is that we use technology. Because really in the 21st century, it's almost impossible for you to work on anything without incorporating technology into your work. Forward uses the concept of digital storytelling a lot to get the voices and the stories of those directly impacted by the issues that we work on out there into the public. So we use things like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and we what we do is we help develop storytellers from the folks who really are experiencing these issues and then elevate their voices on these different technological platforms. Then we always add an action item to that story so that that individual, when they share their story, it's for a purpose. It not only empowers that individual, but it helps them advocate and fight for themselves through these platforms. So for example, last year, which feels like ages ago, we had the announcement of the repeal of DACA, which in Texas is huge because we have 800,000 DACA recipients, 120,000 DACA recipients in Texas, 800,000 in the entire country. But Texas is the second state with the largest DACA recipient population. DACA recipients are in every sector of our economy, and they are valuable members of our communities. And what we did to fight for them and to advocate for them was to identify folks who wanted to share their stories, gave them the tools to do so through our community team by developing these digital stories, and then created a call tool so that individuals who could log on to the website, or if you saw the story up on your Facebook feed, you could click on it, and then you would type in your name and phone number. By doing that, you would immediately get a call on your cell phone, and it would funnel you through members of Congress in Texas who needed to hear that Texas residents supported Dreamers and needed a legislative solution. So that's just one way of using technology. Another thing that we did at Forward, in partnership with a lot of different direct service organizations, is that post-election, we all heard the anti-immigrant rhetoric that happened during the election season. And then Trump was elected president, and there was a lot of people who were scared. They were terrified. Our immigrant communities had been attacked through the election cycle, and then all of those fears were then validated when he was elected. And there was an agenda out there that threatened the livelihoods of our immigrant communities. And Forward, in partnership with a lot of different organizations, got together the day after the election and decided we need to do something. We need to build a tool to get resources into the hands of the people who need them. And so we created informedimmigrant.com. And this website is a one-stop shop. It's a hub where any organization in the country, if they put up their information on this website, it's almost kind of like Yelp. So you go into the informedimmigrant.com, type in your location and what type of service you're looking for, whether it be healthcare, legal services, and then it pulls up anything that's in your area. That way, if you're a DACA recipient looking to see how can I renew my DACA, or maybe you're an immigrant, you're undocumented yourself, and you need to see a doctor, you don't feel well, and you don't know what services or resources are out there for you, you can look this up on that website. And those are just different ways to use tech to help communities.
Yeah, so at Merivis Foundation, what we do is we are a nonprofit that specifically trains veterans and their spouses in Salesforce, the CRM tool, and we help those veterans and spouses not only get trained and certified, but we also provide them with mentorship, resume review, mock interviews, interview preparation, and then we assist with placing those veterans in some of the biggest tech companies in the world. We've helped place veterans at Google, Accenture, Capgemini, Deloitte, a number of top companies. So the way that we leverage technology, and we don't only just serve veterans and spouses as well, we partner with organizations like Pep Up Tech, which specifically focuses on underrepresented minority youth in the greater New York, New Jersey area, and providing them with Salesforce training and assistance with job placement. So between those two organizations, but specifically at Merivis, because it's centralized here in Austin, and I mentioned this previously, we're really, really focused on ensuring that that veteran or spouse lands that rewarding career. Because as many of us know, there's a difference between just a dead-end job, show up 9 to 5, and having a rewarding career where that veteran or spouse can really progress. So I'll give you an example. One of our graduates from our first cohort in 2015, he was a Navy veteran, enlisted, not an officer like I was, had no bachelor's degree. Was working a few dead-end jobs. He was doing some construction, only making $9 an hour, and then also working the night shift at Samsung, making $11 an hour. He went through our first cohort. He got the Salesforce admin certification. We paired him up with one of our partners and got him some part-time Salesforce consulting hours. And then after about 6 months, he went from $9 an hour doing construction to $92K a year as a Salesforce consultant. And now his whole career has just taken off. He just got recognized at Dreamforce, which is the biggest Salesforce conference in the world. He just got his golden hoodie, which is like the biggest honor in all of Salesforce. And just to see how his career has progressed, where now he's able to provide for his son, and he actually has hope when before he was lost. That's an extremely rewarding experience at the individual level when you see that impact. So I know there's probably many mentors out here who have had that mentor-mentee relationship and seen that person's career progress. That's really what we do every day at Merivis Foundation. And a number of us board members are Latinx, and a number of the veterans and spouses that we train are Latinx as well. So we do our best to make an impact in the veteran community from a diversity perspective.
Awesome. Nobel Prize winner Albert Einstein proclaimed that our technology has far outweighed our humanity, right? So let's use our front and back end development skills to create social impact. Let's use our understanding of data science and content strategy, right, to move change forward. So on a local level, have you seen social impact and social entrepreneurship manifest in the Latinx community, and specifically the communities that are surrounding this space?
I would say I think anybody can be a social entrepreneur if you care enough, and if you identify what it is that drives you, what it is that you feel your place in your community is. I got the opportunity to work not too long ago. I'm not sure if you guys followed along with the family separation crisis that happened at the border. It was very sad. I got to be part of the team that helped those families when they were being released and being reunified. And something that struck me, and I can't express enough just how much I admire these folks, but there were 2 Latinas in the local community who, when they saw the headlines, the first thing they did was get on GoFundMe and create a fund and send the link. It wasn't even like made public or anything. They sent the link to colleagues who they don't work in the immigration space, but they sent it to their colleagues and said, this is happening. We need to raise money. I don't know where this money is gonna go or how we're gonna do it, but it's gonna go to help these families. That fund kind of just sat there. They didn't even look at it because then they realized this is actually a lot more complicated. How do you get money to these families? What resources do they need? When we created the project to go out and help the families reunify, and we were out there, these 2 Latinas got connected to what we were doing because they hustled. They went out there and said, this matters to us. We're gonna figure out who's doing something about it. They showed up at the site and were like, hey, this is who I am. This is my background. By the way, I created this link when the news went viral, and it's reached like thousands and thousands of dollars. Tell me what to do with it. What did they do? They leveraged they're not technology people, but they leveraged a technological tool, which was a GoFundMe website. They created the money, then they found out how to execute. And so I think it's really important, that's, by the way, like my favorite example of how somebody can get involved at the local level is when you identify a problem happening in your community, in your backyard, and then you say, I'm gonna be the person to do something about it because it matters to me. But in addition to that, I think it has to do with, I'm a first-generation American. My parents don't know how to use a computer. They don't know how to use the internet. My dad lives on Craigslist because I taught him how to use that, and he's just so proud of it. But I am so honored and privileged that I am a member of the immigrant community, and I have skills. I'm not a technology person either. I majored in sociology and government, but I can create a website. I can at least research and Google everything, get on YouTube, do tutorials, right? Like, I can be a self-learner and a self-starter when it comes to having impact on something that I care about, which for me is immigration. And that's really what I think I want people to take away, is that you yourself can do whatever you want if you really care about it.
Yeah, I'd like to add that, not everybody here works at a startup, right? Some of us work at big companies, big tech companies, and just because you're in this large tech company like I am, that doesn't mean you can't be an entrepreneur as well. So pretty much a month after I joined Capgemini, I was presented with the opportunity to take on that leadership position in our Veterans Employee Resource Group. So I leveraged a lot of my entrepreneurial mindset that I had and drove that into this ERG leadership position. And specifically at the local level, went out to Fort Hood and found some of those veterans who were looking to transition, helped other veterans get trained up in SAP and other technologies as well. And our OLA ERG, which is our Hispanic and Latino ERG at Capgemini, they're making some of the biggest impact across Capgemini in comparison to any ERG. So is our African and African American ERG as well. So for many of you out there who aren't in a startup but are working for a large company, I'm sure your company has an ERG program. Join that program. I mean, even if you're a campus hire fresh out of college, a lot of times you're going to be able to take on a leadership position and make an impact in your local community through that ERG. And you'd be surprised just how your own sort of professional presence within that company grows, because you're put in rooms where you might just be an entry-level staff consultant, but you're working, hand in hand with an executive vice president who's the executive sponsor of your ERG. So you guys work together, and you're able to, provide food for the homeless in your community, or you're able to train a large group of veterans in the local Latinx community. So I would just really like to encourage you all to leverage that entrepreneurial skill set into an intrapreneurial skill set at your various large company.
Awesome. How are we doing on time, Savannah and the rest of the team? Absolutely. So, thank you. So we don't have all the answers, but we want to create a dialogue and a safe space to figure out what's going on in the world of social entrepreneurship and social impact. So please, we would love to answer any questions.
Can you catch it?
Oh, as a caveat, a question ends in a question mark. So you can definitely introduce yourself, but this is not a situation where we'll have a fourth panelist. Please.
Question for Nolan. Beyond Salesforce.com, do you have, or Salesforce training, do you have plans to train veterans on other things, other non-technology careers? Do you have, what are your longer-term plans?
Yeah, so through Merivis Foundation, which I'm a board member of right now, we're focused on Salesforce.
And why is that, by the way?
Because our founder was a senior leader from Salesforce. He works for another company now, but a lot of the board members are experienced executives and senior managers within Salesforce practices at various tech companies. So that's where a lot of our core strength is, and that's where that allows us to not only help train, but provide that Salesforce mentorship to that veteran and help place that veteran at that tech company in a Salesforce role. But through Capgemini Veterans ERG, we've partnered with St. Michael's Learning Academy, which is in Killeen, right outside of Fort Hood, and they focus on SAP training. There's another organization that we're developing a partnership with called MSSA, which is Microsoft System Services Academy, and they specifically train veterans in various Microsoft cloud technologies and cybersecurity as well. And I'm happy to talk more with you about that after this.
I can't throw that far.
I think we got one. Yeah, football.
Cool. So social entrepreneurship, I'm interested in kind of your opinions or what you've seen or what's exciting to you about different sort of for-profit efforts, right? There's this whole conscious capitalism space, for-profit social entrepreneurship, what that looks like. Is there anything that you're seeing that is particularly interesting that you think is like a good model for folks to look at if they want to, do a lot of good, but also, create intergenerational wealth in the process?
I don't have a lot of experience in the actually for-profit space, but I will say that a lot of our partners are for-profit companies. And so one of the things that I think is really important and really valuable is that no matter what, if you are a for-profit company, there's so much influence that you can have, whatever product it is you have. So for example, GoFundMe partnered with our Dream campaign to help DACA recipients fund their renewals, right? And obviously GoFundMe makes a percentage off of that, but what they're doing is they're using their platforms to highlight these stories and also help these individuals raise their money. So I think it's really important, no matter if you're interested in nonprofit or for-profit world, it's that you incorporate whatever it is you're passionate about, or is there a gap in a community that you want to help, that you help fill that.
Also, Roman, I mean, if it makes good sense for a for-profit company, it also makes sense in the social aspect. I think about one of the largest success stories, maybe not technological, Goodwill, right? You have Gently or Used closed, and they want to create jobs, but also there's a population that would like to purchase these clothes, right? So it makes good sense for business. But the second part is like approach it with the strategy and to win. And I think that we can learn a lot from what you're doing in your own company as well. So there are so many entrepreneurs and public policy experts and technologists in the room that I definitely think that we have a lot to learn from each other. There's a question in the back.
I want me to throw this at you?
So just a quick question for Zaire. So, oh, it's a mic. That's cool. Okay. I just realized that. I thought we were just throwing around like a talking pillow or something. Like you got the stick. So quick question. So we're talking about social entrepreneurship, and I'm coming from the realm of Ford Fund, right? I was talking about social entrepreneurship earlier, and we usually partner with nonprofits such as LNSC, LULAC, but looking now as, I don't know if we're the only corporation doing this, but at partnering with for-profit that do social entrepreneurship, is there a source that you use to find a list? I mean, is there a group that connects all the social entrepreneurs that are Latino, that are women, is there something that has that we haven't found? Because here we are with the resource, just looking for the people to give the opportunity to.
Yeah, so I will say there is not a resource, and if anybody wants to create it, I would be forever grateful because that's currently my role. So what I do for Forward is I identify organizations, companies, any major stakeholder in our communities, and then I connect them with opportunities to get involved on advocating for either immigration or criminal justice reform. And so I would say no, there's not a specific tool, just a lot of research. I used to, before my time at Forward, I was just a student at UT, and I actually grew up here in the Austin community. And I always went out of my way just to research, use the heck out of Google to identify which organizations or companies were in the area that aligned with my interest.
Okay, just wondering. So who's next? Also, Nolan, have you heard of, do y'all work with Bunker Labs at all?
I have. I'm very familiar with Bunker Labs. I know Shady's there in the back doing great things over at Bunker Labs. So I know many folks over there. But yeah, there we go.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's cool. They're one of our partners nationally too, so that's
Awesome.
pretty cool.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm afraid to throw it.
All right. So this is actually the first time I've heard about Forward. How are you guys reaching out to your, like you said you provide a lot of resources like immigration or infoimmigrants.com and forward.us, but how do you get, like I used to work at elementary school, a lot of minorities there, and the people just didn't know how to access those resources. Like how do you reach out to those communities, and how do you inform, especially the parents? Like Latino parents they're a little bit timid, they're a little bit shy. They don't know how to access those resources, and I'm sorry, I have gum too. How do you access those resources, or how do you share those resources, and how do you find these communities that really need them?
Yeah, so our Informed Immigrant team, we're actually about to just revamp and restructure what we're doing at the organization. It's really exciting, but we just created a position for an informed immigrant outreach director. And she's currently right now exploring different ways to partner with local communities. And so what we've done in the past is just put informedimmigrant.com out there and just reached out to partner organizations and said, hey, this resource is there, push it out. But we know that the priority is getting it into the hands of the people who need it, and that is going to happen in institutions such as education, healthcare, all the places where those communities are already connected into them. Right now, we're just exploring different ways to partner. We're always happy to partner with schools. I've done presentations where I go in and I explain this is what informedimmigrant.com is. A lot of local governments are interested, so elected officials such as council members and mayors have asked for the resource and have added the resource onto their websites. And so really, we're kind of building out that program, but I'm happy to chat with you to figure out how it is that we can plug in Informed Immigrant into the school system.
No, thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you. I don't feel comfortable.
So that unfortunately was our last question. We've just been given the cue card in the back to wrap up, but thank you so much for your time. I look forward to working, talking, and building with you to transform the world through social entrepreneurship. Again, another round of applause for Nelson, as well as Zaire.